things, and they messed around with a couple of things with me, kind of, but, you know, I think I signed to RCA. Pete Waterman wanted me to sign to a major label that was possible, or could possibly break an artist worldwide, which I have to give him credit for, to be honest. And eventually they just got the ump and said, look, you're going to have to, we need a record. And they had Never Gonna Give You Up. This is how crazy the music business is. It was the biggest record of the year. It was a #1 around the world. And they had it in a draw. And that's the version that I sang and everything. The version that you know or have heard was kind of sat in a drawer. And Waterman and Stock and Aitken were kind of, I think, a bit nervous about releasing it. Partly because I looked about 11 years old, but didn't sound that way. And I think they saw that as a stumbling block, and they just thought, have we made the right record for it? And my friends and my family were all going, yes, you have made the right record, it's great. But they just didn't seem to want to put it out. So when it actually came out, and then did what it did, it was kind of like, it wasn't, I'm not saying it was like a huge shot, because Stock Aitken Waterman records got on the radio at that point. But DJs were up for at least playing them, you know, giving it a try, and producers and stuff. But when it all happened in the way it happened, it was kind of a shock for all of us, I think. Because like I say, they were a bit unsure about it anyway. I don't know why, but they were. My place in the world of music and releasing records and the rest of it didn't exist. It's the first thing I'd ever done. And so we actually, I talk about this in the book, one of the ways Waterman stalled RCA was we did a duet. We released a duet with a girl called Lisa, who was a friend of one of the young guys who worked in the studio. And I was just trying to write songs anyway, and I'd always written songs, and I'd written this song with a different team in the building. And Pete said, oh, we should put that out, it's going to be great. And I'm like, hang on a minute. I signed to the 3 guys who were having the massive hits. Why aren't you going to write me a song? And anyway, yada yada, eventually it came out, and when it came out, I struggled a bit with it, I think. Just the enormity of it. It was just, first record out, #1, 5 weeks. Before you know what you're doing, in that period of time, I went to every major city in Europe, and I'd been to Europe probably 4 times on holiday at that point in my life.
But you also say, like, you did Top of the Pops, which was huge back then, you know, the show where you'd go and you'd have all the kind of best-selling artists of the day singing and performing their songs, but you turn up and people just assumed you'd know what to do. Nobody had actually told you.
Yeah, well, I've always thought this as well, that never mind this, that people who sign a record deal should actually be given therapy, I think, to start with, and also just explain a few things to them that way, emotions of it and everything. But also maybe some training in, like, this is what this TV thing is, this is how it works. And I think there are a lot more of those things going on in music for sure. And I think, I must say, we've actually got some of my lovely record label here tonight, hello by the way, wherever you are. I think people do have much more care in the fact that these are human beings. And I think perhaps in the 80s it was a bit more all guns blazing, let's go for it. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that in terms of the gung-ho nature of it. I think people understand what people go through sometimes in a ramped up version of being like literally famous almost overnight. Yeah, so the first time I went to Top of the Pops, it was just weird. It was kind of like, for one, it was tiny. It's so small, or it was so small, that studio, it was ridiculous. You kind of thought it was the size of like Wembley Arena or something. It's like acts everywhere playing. Nope, they just shuffled you onto like 2 stages, like you're on that one or you're on that one. And somebody just plonked a microphone stand on the stage and kind of literally walked away and sort of said, off you go, son. It was kind of like, what? Because, well, no one even explained at that point, if the red light is on the camera, that means it's on and it's looking at you. Honestly, I just didn't even know where to look, I didn't know anything, and nobody explained any of it. It was
also
just
like, so the basic things, even for this tonight, you've done a trillion of these things.
I've done 2, this is my second one.
You've like spoken in environments before.
I have spoken.
Yeah. But, you know, we came out and we just had a look at the room and you kind of like test the microphone, and it's just sort of bizarre to think that you go to something like Top of the Pops and they're like, yep, off you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not to mention, Def Leppard are there. Oh yes. Yeah.
And
it's
wet.
Wet, it's kind of like the first time you see seriously proper famous, and Wet were in their beginning as well. So even though they had a hit record, and I'm kind of like, oh, that's those Scottish guys, you know. They were a bit more approachable. When you see Def Leppard, it's slightly different. Like, they've got one of the biggest albums known to man out right now, and this is just a bit strange, you know. It's weird.
But even at that moment too, you talk well in the book about saying you had a sense that, you know, you had this upbringing, you were absorbing all different types of music, you loved so much about music, and then you arrive at Top of the Pops, you're doing a Stock Aitken and Waterman song, you know kind of probably what people are thinking about that,
oh, yeah.
and you're next to Def Leppard, and you kind of want to go like, hi, I really do like music.
Yeah, I don't actually remember speaking to them, to be honest. I do remember one thing, that after it, my dad called them Jeff Leppard, and I just thought that was amazing. It's not that he would ever watch Top of the Pops, but he did do that night. Yeah, it was just weird. I mean, even going up to, like, you know, being at the TV Centre, which ironically I was there this morning doing Lorraine, get me? It was just even that. It's such an iconic building that we've all kind of seen on TV for all the different shows that got made there and stuff. I just think, I don't know, I just sometimes think you could have done with a bit of an apprenticeship in that way, of actually, like, you know, maybe going there just with somebody else and just looking at it first, like being tagging along while another artist does it, you know what I mean? But obviously there probably isn't the chance to do that, but it's pretty daunting. And I was on my own as well. It's not like I'm with 4 other guys or what have you, you know, we'll just bluff it out. If you're on your own with a wobbly mic stand and some guys just go, off you go, son, it's quite daunting.